Volkanovski versus Max. What do you guys think of that, by the way? Straight up question. No influence, but let's have a discussion there. And just to remind you, the first time that Max fought Volkanovski, going into that fight, there wasn't a lot to see there. I mean, that was really the belief. This was a big fight. It's a world title, but it wasn't main event on the night that it was on, and people weren't clamoring to see it. And the only reason for that, that we just knew it was going to happen. Max is going to go out there and kick another guy's ass. It was just one of those things. Wasn't big promotion. Wasn't a lot of people talk. Wasn't a lot of money coming back and forth. It was just one of those fights. This fight needs to happen. Let's get the fight done. We can move on to the main event. Now, when they rematched, it was completely different. Right? Everybody's discussing it. This is a big deal. Oh, by the way, it is now the main event. Total feature, but one thing remained, just to remind you guys, which is Max in both fights was the favorite. Now, I have my own opinion. I thought that Max won the first fight. I know that Max won the second fight. Let me clarify what that means. When the first fight ended, I thought it was very close, and I thought it would go to Max. When it did not, I did not push back. I didn't cry foul ball or anything like that. After the second fight, I did. It was very clear, 3-2 by my eyes. The reason I give you that backstory is I will be curious. I want to start with you guys. I want to know what you think on that fight. But I am very comfortable in predicting for you. When we see the lines for this fight, Volkanovski is going to be the favorite. Now, how do we get there? If you guys agree with me, and popular opinion does agree with what I just said, then I kind of thought Max won the first fight. It was awful. Okay, I know Max won the second fight. How do we then go into a third fight, but you're favoring Volkanovski? Like, how do you get to that point? And it's really quite fascinating. You know, Volkanovski for sure goes in the category of guy who's a hell of a lot better than we knew that he was. Plenty of people make that bill, but maybe not by as big of a gap. Like, oh, he turned out to be a little better than I thought it would. No, Volkanovski's much better than what we were aware of. Even with his beautiful, even with his undefeated, even with his dominant record, he turned out to be a hell of a lot better, and he's hungry and he's getting better. Max, incredible output, greatly affected by COVID in terms of his training situation. I thought went out against Calvin Kattar and put on his best performance, in spite of all of this. Doing something different, putting the reins on him just a little bit, refreshing and relaxing, not by choice, but it was a byproduct. Max's body and mind, I thought he went out there and looked better. Now, that's a real cutting-edge statement. There is many times in life that you can get more by doing less. It's just in the short term. It's a month before the competition. It's one training camp. It's 5 days before you take them off completely, and sometimes that will recharge your battery. I don't argue for you that that's going to hold up, and Max has been out while Volk has been busy. We do know within this sport, like anything in life, you don't get better at something by not doing it. But so what do you make of it? I mean, has Volk closed the gap? That's all I'm asking. Physically, I mean, once we determine this physically, once we make our decision, not that we're right, but once we make our hypothesis and we make our stand, that Volk has improved between their last contest and this one, and here is my evidence. Once we do that, that's the physical side. But then you have to look at the mental. I do not think that Max Holloway was fully motivated because I do not believe that Max knew what he was getting into the first time that they competed. We didn't know, guys. The lines didn't know, the bettors didn't know, the audience didn't know, the media and the pundits didn't know. Nobody was predicting an upset there. So if we didn't know, wouldn't it be reasonable that Max, who happens to be one of us, also just didn't know? Hey, man, this guy's a little stronger, this guy's a little better, this guy's got a little better conditioning. Fill in the blank to the statement, but he's better than I thought he was. Okay, great. If you do look at their second performance, Max did pull away. It was a very different fight. Why? Think Max got better during COVID training in his garage? No, man, it was all mental. Max's approach was understanding that this battle is going to be X hard, and therefore I am prepared mentally for what's going to come. And it was a different performance. I mean, as much as I want to tell you, I thought Max won both fights. The first fight, I don't know. It was weird. I mean, it really was. It was very close, and it took you kind of a minute to even see what you're seeing. Took you kind of a minute to go, hey, wait a minute, this New Zealand guy, he's doing pretty good. It's one of those things, and that's very common when you have a dominant champion. Max, at the time of that first fight, was already being discussed and anointed the greatest featherweight of all time. That discussion was out there. There was a simultaneous conversation going on about who the best boxer in all of MMA was, and it was down to 3. Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, Max Holloway. I mean, he really was getting boosted a lot. So when you find yourself in a situation that's harder than you thought it was going to be in, then you go into the second fight where he was fully aware. And he did change. I mean, I really do stand by the statement. I try not to do this very often, right? The outcome is the outcome. But I really did think that was 3-2, and I thought it was blatantly obvious. I don't think Max got better physically. I don't even think he changed his style, but mentally there was a little bit of a difference, and the mental side is very relevant. Because Max has been out. He was on the injury list for just a minute. He hasn't been as active as of the short term. Over the last 3 years, he's had ever been as many fights as Volkanovski, but not in the last 12 months, just by example. But the byproduct of that, the hunger and the motivation, the understanding his back is against the wall, there is not a reasonable scenario that any of us could hypothesize that if Max loses to Volkanovski, Max will ever fight for a championship within that division again as long as Volkanovski holds the belt. Getting to a trilogy fight that is not a true trilogy fight, meaning you did not split the outcomes of the first 2, is extremely rare. I can't tell you off the top of my head another time that it happened in our sport. I would even have to turn to the sport of boxing to think of a time that they just kept matching these guys up. They did it with Manny Pacquiao and Juan Marquez Jr. Pacquiao beat him 3 times. Marquez goes and gets on the needle. Not only knocks Pacquiao out, knocks him out of the ring. Right? The 4th fight, fails on the first 3, knocks him out of the ring. I can't think of a time that it's happened. It would be a very helpful precedence, by the way. I mean, just to open the door, look at what Robert Whittaker is going through. Clear number 1 contender, had 2 opportunities with the same guy, not likely to get back to number 3. Colby Covington could not be the clearer top challenger to Kamaru Usman, but you had 2 opportunities. It's very hard to get to part 3. So it's an interesting thing just on its face what Max is going through. If Max succeeds, it will change the conversation for MMA. It won't necessarily open the door quickly for the Whittakers and the Covingtons, but it is something that we're not used to seeing. And then what happens if Max does win? He's got to give him the rematch, right? I mean, if Max gets a W in this fight, which is right around the corner, July 2nd is right around the corner, guys. I got to imagine they just go and fight the 4th time. Now, that's tomorrow's problem. We can cross that bridge when we get there, but it is a very interesting spot. I would love to hear from you guys on the physicality. Who do you think is better? And I think if you saw what I saw, you're going to recognize the gains of Volkanovski. You're going to recognize the dominance in the way that he is pulled away from the division. That's clear, though. That's in front of your eyes. That's very tangible. It's very tough to isolate the mental approach. You're going to have to guess. I think that Max is in a better space. I think that the rest was good for Max. If you guys will remember, Max had the record one year, and the last 2 years have blended by in my mind. Can you guys relate to that? But it was one of the pandemic years that Max had like 5 fights in 15 months, but that was more than anybody else had. So now he's on the other side where he's got a little bit of rest. He's hungry. He wants to get in there. It's one of those things. All you could do is guess, and all you could do is surmise. I do think as we debate this back and forth, popular opinion will say that physicality, we can identify where Volkanovski's better. But I think just as important to that equation, if not more so, is the mental approach, which is purely a guess. I surmise that Max is in a better place mentally than he was in the prior 2.